Hello, my friends. Today's story comes from the criminal files in Australia. In November 1999, a police patrol officer was driving along the highway at night when he noticed a car parked on the roadside. What caught his attention was the blood on the outside of the vehicle and its shattered windows. He approached to inspect the car and found two people in the front seat, both shot dead. He immediately reported it to the police. When investigators arrived, they noticed the driver's window was broken and the car's engine was still running. From their identification cards, it was revealed they were a married couple, Dr. Ken, 57 years old, and his wife Caroline, 44. Both had suffered multiple gunshot wounds. But who could have done this? The detectives began investigating and learned that Caroline had told her mother the day before that she and Ken would be going out to celebrate her birthday, and that he had prepared a big surprise for her. That evening, the couple went out for dinner, and afterward, Ken drove along the highway, a quiet road. The question arose, why did the couple take this road, which was in the opposite direction of their home? Investigators noticed that Ken was still wearing his seatbelt, while Caroline had removed hers with her right leg outside the car, as if she had tried to escape before she was killed. It was clear the motive wasn't robbery, as nothing was missing from the car, not even their expensive wristwatches. The medical examiner retrieved over 10 bullets of .38 caliber from their bodies, but no witnesses or evidence was found at the scene. When the police reviewed Dr. Ken's home phone records, they found a number that had called him 5 times on the day of the crime. It turned out to be an employee named Adriana, who worked for Dr. Ken. They decided to question her, but first they checked Ken's bank account and discovered he had withdrawn $30,000 just before the crime. When they interviewed Adriana, she said she had been Ken's receptionist for 8 years. When asked why she had called him repeatedly, she explained that she was having computer issues and needed his help. She claimed to know nothing about the money he had withdrawn. As the investigation continued, the case made headlines, prompting a man named Richard, a former maintenance worker for Dr. Ken, to contact the police. He told them he once went to repair the alarm system at Ken's house when Caroline wasn't home, and Ken had hinted at some unusual things, even offering Richard a large sum of money to kill his wife. Initially, Richard thought Ken was joking, but he realized Ken was serious. Richard refused and advised Ken to abandon such ideas. This revelation led investigators to dig into the couple's relationship, and they found that Ken and Caroline were unhappy together. Caroline had even considered divorce, but Ken's mother advised them to see a marriage counselor. Detectives also learned that Ken had multiple affairs, which was the root of the marital discord. This raised suspicions that there might be something between Ken and Adriana. By this time, a year had passed since the murder. When police questioned Adriana about her relationship with Ken, she confessed, saying their affair started when she began working for him. She also revealed that Ken despised his wife, but feared divorcing her because she would get half of his wealth. Detectives also discovered that Adriana had other relationships while seeing Ken, and someone informed the police that Adriana had hoped to convince Ken to divorce Caroline and marry her. However, Ken refused to leave his wife. This gave the detectives a motive for Adriana to want Ken gone. They obtained a warrant to search her house and found photos of Ken with his wife, along with other pictures of Adriana and an unknown man. When they questioned her supervisor at work, they learned the man was Tony, a maintenance worker in Adriana's building. They also discovered something significant. Adriana had gone to a gun store with a relative and had pointed to a particular gun, which the store employee said resembled the one Adriana purchased for Tony. The police tried to locate Tony, but he had disappeared since the day of the crime. They then released his picture to the public in an effort to catch him. After some time, someone called the police, telling them that the man in the photo was actually named Dennis, a 30-year-old with a criminal record. Fortunately, Dennis had been arrested in another state, so detectives went to interrogate him. He denied any involvement in the couple's murder. At the same time, the police subjected Adriana to a lie detector test. She passed all questions except one, when asked if she knew he was responsible for the crime. Consequently, the police decided to arrest Adriana and charge her with the couple's murder. To avoid the death penalty, Adriana signed a plea deal and recounted the events of that night. She told them that Ken had wanted to get rid of his wife for years, and when she met Dennis, whom she knew as Tony, she told him about Ken's idea. Dennis then arranged a meeting with Ken. Adriana sat in the car with Ken, urging him to reconsider as Tony was a dangerous man, but Ken insisted. He handed her an envelope full of cash to give to Dennis. Adriana told investigators that Ken and Dennis continued planning the murder without her knowledge, and that she tried to dissuade Ken, but to no avail. Later, Dennis came to her house, instructing her to come with him to execute the plan. They drove to the highway and waited at a gas station until they spotted Ken's car. Dennis followed Ken until he pulled over. Dennis then approached Ken's car and shot both him and Caroline. He returned to Adriana, reloaded the gun, and fired again to make sure they were dead. When he came back, he told her he had also shot Ken, because he feared leaving any evidence and considered Ken foolish and likely to expose their agreement. In fact, Ken had recklessly paid the full amount before the crime. Adriana revealed that Dennis threw the gun into the ocean. 3 years after the crime, Dennis and Adriana faced murder charges. In January 2003, Adriana was sentenced to life in prison without parole, and Dennis received the same sentence. Dennis died in prison of cancer in 2012. And finally, my friends, what part of this story surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more.